about straining for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back?
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, men. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina show with your host, Joe Miller. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by Q42 on the Buffalo Rumblings vidcast network. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the host of the show. Right next to me is the one and only John Fina. John, how you feeling? Oh, I got you muted. Hang on. There you go. Start over. How you feeling? Sorry about that.
Yep. Feeling good, man. Feeling really good. I'm excited for our special edition show.
Yes.
Right? It's first one of its kind of. And our two great guests, which I reveal right there on the screen for those of you who are tuning into the YouTubes and listening to the show as we go. We're pretty excited about this.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I was not nervous at all today. And about 3 seconds ago, all of a sudden, it was like, this game's going down. I'm about to be on a show with 3/5 of the Buffalo Bills offensive line.
Yeah.
From the 90s. It's like, I might not talk. I might just like hand it over and sit back and let you guys like ham it up a little bit. So,
we're pretty big dudes. That might be like 3.75 fifths of the entire off by price per pound anyway.
That's hysterical. But John's got a quick message from our sponsor, Q42. So why don't you go ahead, John?
Yeah, and set to music. Here's the story of owner of Q42 Barbecue, Iman, who was playing offensive line in high school when Jerry O, Glenn Parker, and John Fina were in Bills uniforms. At 5'7" and way undersized, poor Iman, his football coach, knew that he watched every Bills game, and to inspire him to get up, get off the bench, and participate and contribute, he told him to study the Bills' offensive line, watch their first step on pass block, see how the guards pull on sweeps, pay attention to how they got under and inside the D linemen's pads. Iman did his homework, recorded games on the VCR, and for you young people out there, forget it, and came to practice with a new attitude, even grew a goatee. I'm growing this for you, Iman, just because you said that, to intimidate his opponents. Unfortunately, Iman just was not going to be a great O-lineman, but fortunately for us, he got into the barbecue game. 2 decades later, he studied the tape, put in the work, and poured the same level of passion and effort into his barbecue sauces. Now, the KC-style sauce is an award-winning sauce made with their own ketchup, homemade recipe, and local Western New York honey. This stuff goes on anything: ribs, burgers, chicken. I dip my fries in it. I mean, I was using it for crudité. The Carolina sauce is made with their own mustard recipe mixed with apple cider vinegar, and we all know the health benefits of apple cider vinegar. Mm-hmm. That same local honey and a blend of spices. This one is great on chicken, pork, or just take it as a shot if you really like mustard. And you know what? That might keep you warm at this Bills game tonight if you're somehow listening to us before you go into the stadium trying to stay warm in your car. Right. Get your bottle at Q42.com and use the discount code Fina Show, all capitals, to save 15% on your order. Joe, that's it. Iman's the best.
Iman's the best. We love the sauces and excited and proud to have him as our sponsor. But you all are tuned into the show, the Off Tackle with John Fina show. As we said, brought to you by Q42 on the Buffalo Rumblings vidcast network. We are Super Chat Live. We're going to go ahead and bring the guys on right now. And if you've got a question as we're talking and chatting, or if you got a comment, feel free to Super Chat us. But this is an exciting game, and this is an exciting pregame show for this Monday Night Football game. Ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Parker, Jerry Ostroski. Glenn, how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling fantastic. Going to feel even better as we get rolling here. I was told we're allowed to partake, so I am.
Yes, sir.
I think we're a little north of the border right here.
How often do you have to tell offensive linemen to go ahead and partake?
Never.
Never. Jerry, what you drinking?
Yeah, Jerry, what you drinking?
I'm drinking a local brewery called Heirloom. It is a Miles from Nowhere IPA.
Miles from nowhere. Nice.
And everybody, just so you know, that wasn't a 4-ounce can in Jerry's hand. That's a full-size can. It only looks like one of the Monopoly pieces because Jerry's holding it.
That's awesome.
It's a 7-ounce bucket of what I used to call a bucket of rocks.
There you go. Yeah.
Nice. Well,
Hey guys, thanks for coming on, man. I mean, I talked to you guys a little bit over Twitter. Glenn, I see you every now and again. I call you, and Jerry, it's just we've been getting connected. I love the social media for that aspect. Just reconnecting with our old friends, family, things of that nature. So thanks so much for coming on. Joe and I were thinking of scrapping it, and I said, well, why don't I ask like the two smartest guys I know to come on, and we'll save everybody else for another show.
They refused, so you got us. Is that what happened?
Joe, did you tell them in the text thread?
I did. I'm sorry, I let it out of the bag. I apologize.
This is how it goes in the O-line room,
Yeah.
Joe. Like you got to walk in with a suit of armor, right, and a slight buzz. And know that you're going to take it from every direction.
I got my invitation last night. About 11:30, so I figured everybody else backed out.
I think it was 11:35, Jerry, if we're being honest. So it's good to have you guys. You know what? I know that there's a little bit of an outline of conversation stuff that we're going to talk about, but why don't we start here as the inactives kind of dropped for this show, and obviously everybody's being overlaid right now, so please don't be mad. But in this football game, Marquez Stevenson, inactive. Isaiah McKenzie, inactive. Reggie Gilliam, inactive. Vernon Butler, inactive. And F.A. Obata, inactive. Marquez Stevenson and Isaiah McKenzie. And I know that we want to have a little bit of a conversation about Steve Tasker in this game, but that's our punt returner and our kick returner, both of them out for this football game. What first thought? Anybody want to take a spin at that one?
Our defense is not going to give up touchdowns. Not going to have to worry about returns. That's all. Let's go with confidence.
If you saw the wind outside, nobody needs to try to catch the ball anyway. Just let it hit the ground and then try to jump on it.
And if it's a punt and you're kicking into it, it's just going to go up and come down. And if it's with the wind, it's going to go out the tunnel.
That's
it. I'm going to tell you something. You guys, this is maybe Joe, but Joe, you're pretty young. I was my rookie year. Believe it or not, we were playing the Cardinals. It started on a beautiful day. And by the third quarter, it looked like it does right now outside of Highmark Stadium. I still have a problem with that.
Yep.
Our punter at the time, Rick Tootin, not Rick Tootin, but the punter for the Cardinals, and it's something like weird name like that. Anyways, he punted it, and he downed it for a 1-yard punt. He went up, hit the air coming off Lake Erie, came back down and hit the ground, and he walked up to it and touched it down. It was 1 yard.
Everybody was downfield covering, and he went up and caught it. Did he signal? I don't know. Did he signal?
If you go back to the game notes, 1990, we played the Cardinals. That did happen. It was in the third quarter. It was unbelievable.
I don't think anybody realizes just how bad the wind is in that place when it's calm.
It's interesting to be there and to sit on the 50-yard line, the 48-yard line, which we did, this for the open practices this summer, and just watching the coaches on the field, kind of because they always wear kind of like baggy wind type breaking clothes, and there wasn't really a breeze, but they're walking towards the sideline, and you can see all their clothes like whipping in the wind, and it's like, where is that wind even coming from right now? But this is going to be interesting. I mean, you got to think that Breida maybe is going to return kicks, and you got to think that Micah Hyde, who has obviously a lot of experience returning punts, is going to field those. I guess you could say I think it was Jerry that said it, we're just not going to return the ball. We're going to let it hit the ground or whatever. Maybe they do that on the punt. I don't even know. Like, that's just surprising to me. I don't think either of them are injured. So you got to think this is strategic. They're doing something in this football game that maybe we know they're not happy with Isaiah McKenzie. Maybe they weren't happy with Marquez Stevenson dropping that football last week either. So that, I guess, kind of brings us to an interesting question, which is about a guy that you guys used to play football with, Steve Tasker, right? As far as when you're talking about special teams and just having a guy like that on your team that you can rally around, where would this certainty, let's talk about certainty. Where is how does it make you as a player feel when you're not on special teams, but you're certain that they're good over there versus I'm not so sure about these guys? Chris Watson. How many of you guys played with Chris Watson, the punt catcher? Were any of you guys with him?
I know Fina and I did. I just told that story the other day. About when we traded for Chris Watson. And poor And my man said that I wouldn't necessarily call him a punt returner. He's a punt catcher. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I wish that they had Chris Watson tonight. I guarantee you that. I mean,
well, guys, if you'll recall, Marv Levy had a thing where like every special teamer had to be it wasn't just that they were a special teamer. Like Steve Tasker was always number 4 or number 5 receiver.
Right.
Mark Pike was number 4 D lineman in. Well, all your linebackers, if you had linebackers on special teams, they had to be your 3rd and 4th linebacker at any depth chart. Nobody could just be a special teamer. They had to be good at something else too. So Marv was really good about understanding that, yeah, we're going to have, we could have kept a better linebacker that would have been a backup linebacker, but if he wasn't a willing special team player, we didn't want him. Right. That's how he did it. And so we knew our special teams was 1/3 of our team. And they were all really good, but they could also, but they couldn't just simply be that position guy who had to play special teams. They were special teamers first. That could be a position guy if they had to be, and that's why we were always confident in our special teams.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember a few years there, Tasker played quite a significant role in our offense. I can't remember what year it was. We went to Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
95, 96, 97, those years.
Yeah, he played a tremendous role on our as a slot receiver. A lot of he got involved in the run game with it. Got some, before the fly sweep was basically run every play. Now it seems like in football, but did some of that stuff, and I mean he was highly involved. So I know he's on the ballot. Everybody says special teams guy, but he earned his keep every Sunday. He helped any way he can, especially at that receiver spot.
Yeah.
As a follow-up, Glenn and Jerry, what do you think? Does it make a difference? I know that, we always expected to start our drives between the 22 and 28 yard line, or on a punt that, we'd have an advancement of the ball. Do you think that it affects these guys if they don't have that confidence? Do you think they're approaching the sideline ready to go on? Does it affect their mindset?
I think maybe a little bit, but you have to understand they've changed the rules so much now. It's really hard to get a good kick return because it's either out of the back of the end zone or they're going ahead and fair catching the ball because they're going to get it on the 25. So I think that those slight rules, changing where the kickoff is, the 5 extra yards, has taken kind of some of that flair out of the kick return game. But I will say, like a game like tonight, where you're going to have such horrible swirling wind, as a kicking team, you might be able to take advantage of it. As a kick return team, you might be able to take advantage of it. But, I mean, the days of the really big explosive kickoff return is kind of going to the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jerry. And just backtracking for 1 second, Joe, when you look at who's the inactives, it probably tells you a lot about what they think the strategy for this game is going to be. And who's active? Do they need extra linebackers? They got to stop the run game. Who's going to be up and that they're really going to need as a position player as opposed to a special teams guy. And I would be surprised to see a lot of, if you're heading into that win and it's questionable, you're going to see some people going for it on 4th down. If you're around the 50 or in, where you normally might say, no, we're going to punt. I say, you know what, let's go for this rather than risk a swirling wind on a long snap or a field goal that could get blocked. I see it happening.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I want to follow up to that, Glenn, but real quick, I think Tasker's biggest issue with not having made the Pro Football Hall of Fame to this point is it's the only part of the thirds that isn't broken down by a position. So he's just a special teamer versus Hall of Fame offensive tackle, Hall of Fame running back, Hall of Fame quarterback. It's like, well, Is it him or is it the other guy? Because the other guy was really good too, but I always argue they did different things. And then but they're both special teamers. I was like, but they did different things. Anyway, I digress.
But it's
I hope
not
he
like
gets
a
in.
Devin. Yeah, Joe, I get what you're saying. I agree with that, but it's not like a Devin Hester situation where, Hester, everybody tries to say that Hester was the best special teamer because he was such an explosive kick returner. But Hester wasn't covering punts. He wasn't a gunner. Right. He wasn't double teaming gunners. He wasn't trying to block PAT field goals. Tasker did everything, as did Mark Pike. So that's the difference. If you had a role as Hall of Fame kick returner, then yes, look at Devin Hester. But Hester didn't do what Tasker did. I mean, Steve played probably 35, 37 plays a game just on special teams. I mean, that's the thing that Marv saw, and that's what he went with was, you know what, you're going to have over 30 plays usually a game in special teams. It's a big deal. And you want to have those good guys that can do it. So,
And, and by the way, just for reference, Joe, John and Jerry and myself, we were all kick returners as well. We never got the opportunity. John might have once, but we were all actually back in that back line. So at one point, we were all kick returners as well.
I was 35th on the depth chart.
John and Jerry were freaking pin cushions at tight end on PAT field goal, having one on the inside, one on the outside, one down the middle. And you go into because the NFL had 3 weeks of game film breakdown, just praying that John got something happened over there, that they would go over there for 3 weeks and stay away from you. And he was thinking the same thing.
God, what a miserable job that was. That was miserable. You love to score a touchdown, but I couldn't stand the extra points.
Meanwhile, Glenn was stepping side.
Yeah, they never rushed the tackle. Glenn's over there going like this. So hard. Where's my Gatorade?
Real quick before we move on, for Glenn and for Jerry, I don't know if you're in the interface that you're watching right now, you can click on a button on the right hand side that says comments, and it'll say private or all comments. Click on that, and you can just kind of see there's a whole bunch of people watching the show right now, and you can kind of see what they're saying about you. There's just a lot of people thanking you guys for being here and how excited it is to get to hear you talk and stuff like that. So I probably should have said that before we even started. So I apologize. That's a miss on me. This is the question I have, and then we'll get off of the special teams part. Generally speaking, from my experience as a fan, when special teams are on the field, the starters, the offensive line, the defensive line, a lot of the skill guys aren't really even paying attention because the special teams goes out there, they do their job, and they kind of come back. Is there a different feeling or thought process, even for the offensive line, the defensive line, the guys that aren't on special teams, knowing that a night like tonight, and now with these two guys out, that it's like, oh, we're going to have to be even better than we were thinking. We're going to have to pay attention to special teams, whereas maybe before we usually don't. Anybody?
One of you guys. I just after that first kick, I think as an offensive lineman, you're too damn tired. You're just getting over to the sideline going, okay, when are we going out? And yeah, you're if it's a punt or a kickoff, you're up and you're ready to go, and you're certainly watching to where you're going to start from. But if anything, I would think there's going to be a lot of guys holding their breath, going, just catch the ball. That's all we want you to do, is make sure we have possession. That's all we want.
Sure.
Just get possession.
I think on a night like tonight, the offensive and defensive line is more worried about, for our Canadian listeners, if you got a toque in your winter jacket that you're going to wear on the heated bench, and you hope that they put down a towel so you don't burn your rear end on that hot heated bench when you sit on it. That's probably what I was worried about right now more than anything else.
I think offensive linemen are, they're pragmatic, maybe pessimist. We get excited, but when we see where the punt returners lined up on the field, we might go back a little, 5 yards, just in anticipation of he's going to go about 12, and then there's going to be a penalty, and we're going to be walking toward the damn end zone anyway. Don't run out onto the field too fast. All excited about your great field position, because sure as shit, there's going to be a handkerchief on the field. How many times that happens? You're running out to the 40.
Just think about it. Back in the day, they used to have, John was that guy. John was the athletic offensive lineman that they would put it at the wedge on the kick return team and things like that. But I wasn't on any special team other than PAT field goal. I mean, it wasn't like I was, doing anything else or running down the field. I was, so I never got into teams like everybody else did.
Here's the hierarchy.
My first couple of years, it sucked.
Yeah. Here's the hierarchy. Blocking on PAT, getting drove. Blocking DBs on kickoff return. It's right there. The layers of hell.
No.
I don't think I got one block my entire rookie year.
No, the layer of hell is that R4 and L4 is always the 53rd man that just made the roster who's playing fullback or linebacker that weighs 250, and yet it looks like my
Break train
wants to kill you. And you're like, dude, seriously, can we just get your 2.5 years? Just don't kill me, please. Let's not do this.
You know what, Jerry? That reminds me. That's exactly like you're up by 35 at the end of the game. And they bring in the fresh D end who hasn't seen any action all game.
Yeah, right.
Here we go.
He's like, oh.
Just
you're on the dirt infield in Miami, and it's 89 degrees, and it's 1,000% humidity.
Oh God.
Christ, I got a guy with an attitude here.
So
Hey, settle down, fella. The game's over. Settle down. Take it
Get through
easy.
this healthy.
so looking at a game like this, what is the highest? So the first question I have is, what is the highest that you can remember win game you guys played in individually, John?
I have no memory.
No memory. Nothing crazy like tonight.
No, I mean it was bad in the Oakland game, the playoff game at home, right?
Yes.
That was the bad. That was the worst one I can remember. I saw the ball one time out of Jim's hand do this.
Yeah, Jerry, what about you?
I was on the practice squad then. I remember standing there. It was that Oakland game, and then a close second was that Kansas City game the next week when Bruce took Joe Montana out of the game.
AFC Championship
Super
game.
Bowl down in Atlanta. That those two games were as cold as it's ever been.
Yeah,
and cold and windy. That year you're talking about, we had back-to-back games, Jets and Raiders, where it was like the wind chill was minus 38 degrees. Back-to-back games, and then that Kansas City game was like the next week after that. And then, but my rookie year, that Cardinals game, the wind came out of nowhere. It was bright and sunny, and all of a sudden it was icy and snowy. It was just wild, and that was my welcome to Buffalo moment.
Gotcha.
Other than May 16th, my first mini camp snowing, that was a lot of fun too.
Right.
I got off the plane from Arizona, like I got a pair of shorts, pair of flip-flops, 2 T-shirts. Okay, I should be good to go. It's May 16th. It's snowing. I'm going to die. I'll never make it out of Buffalo. I play the Cardinals, and it's beautiful. Everybody's in short sleeves, and all of a sudden it's
That's what happens when you go from Huntington Beach to Tucson, Arizona to the frozen tundra.
I was like, oh my God. And then that same network, we played at the Meadowlands in December, and it was wet and rainy and cold and windy and nasty. And people think the Meadowlands is one of those places that it doesn't snow. It just gets wet and windy.
Right.
But it's 25 degrees. It's just wet and windy at 25 degrees. It's just ridiculous.
Right.
So, there's a lot of those windy games. And then, of course, the years you guys are talking about, 93, I think that year. 93, 94 season.
93 season, 94 January.
Yeah, I think that was the winter that once it dropped below freezing, it didn't get above freezing for like 3 or 4 months. It just never warmed up. It was a brutal year.
So when you're in the locker room, obviously, it's one thing to know that you've got Josh Allen on your football team, who's got the strongest arm in the NFL. However, there's something to be said for those games that you're talking about. And all three of you blocked for arguably great running backs, whether you want to talk about Thurman Thomas, Kenny Davis, all the way through, to like Travis Henry. I think some of you blocked for Travis Henry as well. Is that correct or no? A little bit.
Yes,
So, I mean, Antoine Smith, but there's guys like we knew we could run the ball. One thing Buffalo's always been known for is the ability to run the football. What's the mindset in the locker room right now, knowing what's going on outside? I don't think cold is the worry, because when you get playing and you get sweating, and you get into the game, it's 3 hours. The cold doesn't bother you unless it's, like you said, minus 38, which is insane. But
I want to layer your question, Joe, because I love the question, but I've resisted Joe, and I always give him a negative write-up every time he says something negative about the team. What I want to know, same kind of dovetail, what's the identity of this team? And I've been resistant to say that they seem a little lost, between lack of effective, consistent running game and to who are we? Do you guys get that feel? And what do you think?
Yes.
Better question.
Jerry, and you could probably answer this too. When I coach teams now, I always go, I get my own line together. I say, hey, you guys have to come up with an identity. Who are you going to be? Who are we going to be as a team? And I agree, John. I kind of wonder sometimes. I thought early on, Moss, I thought, hey, this is going to be who we are. It's going to be great. And it seems every week we're kind of changing, and I agree. What about you, Jerry?
I think the biggest thing right now in Buffalo is if Josh Allen is the identity of the team, they need to let him be Josh Allen. And by that, I mean, you talk about running the football, okay? I understand we don't want to run the quarterback 30 times a game.
Right.
But Josh Allen is 6'5" or whatever he is, 200 and over 250. He can handle himself fine. I've always felt that he's a better quarterback when he's involved in the run game. I think he gets into it more when he runs a little bit. You're not going to force him. He's not Jim Kelly. He's not going to sit back there and pat the ball and throw it all over the place. He's got to run the football a little bit. And I just feel that right now we are in this mode of trying to protect him, trying to force a tailback running game, and then we're trying to throw the ball down the field. It's like we've got to set everything up through Josh Allen. He's got to be able to run the ball some prescribed quarterback runs. Let him be physical. Let him get hit a little bit and get into it. And I think he's better when he does that.
Yeah. And, go ahead, Glenn. Sorry.
I would say this too, and I think that's Jerry. I think you're spot on there. Although it scares the hell out of me how much they do run him because he's not the greatest at ball security.
Right.
And I don't want him getting hurt. And let's face it, it doesn't take long in the NFL for quarterbacks finally decide I don't want to be hit anymore. Look at Cam Newton is bigger than Josh Allen, and Cam Newton's a big, thick dude. And he, after about a year and a half, said, "I'm done with this. I don't want to get hit." As you know, you got big boys. It hurts up there.
Yep.
It's a little different animal. But I was never. If this team right now is worried about the win, if it's worried about its run game, it's already lost. The game's over. There's never once that I can ever recall with Jim Kelly or any other quarterback I ever had after I left here after 7 years. That was never in our mindset. You never said we couldn't throw the ball. Jim Kelly threw the ball over the field no matter what what it was. And if they're thinking that way, which who knows if they are, we're not privy to that. This game's over already.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at a modified passing game, not as many downfield throws where the wind's going to mess with the ball. But by and large, I think Joe and I got the answer that we were hoping we wouldn't get, which is a lack of identity. And I think either Jerry stole my comment from a previous show, but I said to Joe some time ago too, Josh seems to do better when he's involved in at least one run within the first two series of the game.
Yep.
And he's doing better at sliding, Glenn, to your point. I agree, man. I mean, you can only take so many hits. It's different, right? When you are an offensive lineman, you're delivering a blow. Your expectation is you're going to get one. But when you're a running back or a quarterback getting, hit in the backfield, it's a different feeling, I think. So appreciate that, fellas.
I love this question real quick from Mike Kingsley.
Here we go. We got a super chat from Mike Kingsley.
Not a super chat, just a question. It's just a really good question. So is the lack of identity an indictment, whether on Dable and or the players, or is it a game planning advantage that shows versatility?
Well, I'd like to say that I thought we said no free hard questions.
So what Mike is asking is the lack of identity on Dable or the players, or is it a situation where we're trying to be so versatile and so multiple that it turns into it's master of 1,000 things or whatever it is, a jack of 1,000 trades and a master of none, right? We're not great at anything, but we can do 15 things kind of good.
I hate to go back to constantly telling stories on us, but I guess that's kind of what
tell them.
Do.
That's
so
why
do you remember the preseason when we were going to turn around, we were going to put Carwell Gardner in a fullback, and we were going to run power running game.
The C gun.
Yes, we were going to call it the C gun instead of the K gun, and we were going to be this power football team. And I'll never forget, we're in Denver, and we had like 3 drives in the preseason, and we were awful. And we go back to the huddle, and Jim walks in and just says, "That's it. We're done. I'm calling the plays." He kicks Carwell out of the game. Next thing you know, we're back in K-Gun. In like 4 or 5 plays, we score and come off to the sideline. And they were like, "Okay, let's go back to the K-Gun. This whole other deal's done with." And I think that what I'm trying to say is that the personnel we had, that's what we were built around. Jim knew it. That's what our offense was. And they need to do something, find out what these offensive linemen are really good at, allow them to have success. Do things that help them be successful. Don't continually try to. You're not going to. That's outstanding, by the way. You're not going to force them to be something they're not, right, guys? I mean, if they're a pass pro team, pass pro. If they're a power running team, run the football. But you can't force them to be something they're not.
But as a fan, because you're a fan now and a former player, when you've watched this team do exactly what you just said, which is force them to do something that they're not, does it frustrate you?
A little bit. Because I go back to what we talked about earlier. I go back to Josh Allen. I think everything in that offense runs through him.
I think it should. I don't know if it does. Go ahead, Glenn.
Well, the whole thing about the identity, the offensive line has to. Here's the thing about the locker room, whether it's the offensive line or the quarterback. I got to the Bills, we had an identity already. And so I just fit in. And when I got to Kansas City, kinda. And I was asked when I got to the Giants, what's our identity going to be? The thing about the NFL that no one seems to get, and most GMs do not understand, is it can be someone in the locker room that you have no idea is actually the guy that sets the identity. And when they get rid of that guy, the identity's gone. And it's not always a starter. I'll go like the Cardinals' recent memory. Rashad Johnson was a safety, not a starter. They got rid of him, and they immediately started sucking on defense. The guy didn't even start for him. But he was their identity guy in that locker room. It was, I was working for him at the time, and I knew a lot of people there. It's like at the Kansas City Chiefs, Greg Minuski, who is one of the all-time wild men in the league, he was so much a part of our identity at that team, the way he set that tone. So that identity is not, do we run the ball? Do we pass the ball? That identity is who brings that group together and gets that esprit de corps. And they just might not have that guy in the locker room right now. And see, the GMs aren't in the locker room. The coaches are not in the locker room. The players are. But if there's not always that guy that is the one that kind of is the, that spark, or what do you call it? That butter bread, that whatever they call that stuff.
Yeah. Let's lean into this game, start actually talking about the actual game itself. A lot has been made this week. I don't know how much of the media you guys pay attention to if you watch Good Morning Football or the ESPN shows, or even listen to like One Bills Live, which Tasker is on. But a lot has been made this week about the Buffalo Bills, kind of being the underdog. Nobody's really selected them to win this game. They pretty much it's gone from crowning the Bills, preseason, to being in the Super Bowl, possibly Super Bowl champs, to now the Patriots are the ones that they're saying are going to be the number one seed. The whole no one believes in us narrative, if you will. Do you guys believe in that as motivation? That Sean McDermott said it this week in his press conference. We're facing the number one, right, New England Patriots. How often do you hear a head coach say that about their opponent? He said that for a reason. He said it basically for the guys in the locker room. Do you believe in that motivation? Does that play a factor, knowing that nobody thinks you can win this football game?
Jared,
I think it does to some extent. I think that you got to look at Buffalo, the city of Buffalo, the people of Buffalo, and how the whole thing goes together. I mean, being the underdog is what this team has thrived on. The city has thrived on for years.
Yep.
So yeah, there is some of that, but everybody will tell you, and the two other guys on this podcast besides me will tell you, that's fine and dandy until after the first play. And when you get hit in the mouth after the first play, all that stuff's out the window, and you play football. So if you need to, I mean, we had guys if somebody's always trying to find some sort of locker room material. I mean, you heard Nick Saban talk about it this weekend. He said his famous term is what? Rat poison, right? And he said, but this week the rat poison was yummy. It tasted really, really good, and it was good for our football team. They were the underdog, right? And that's something you don't ever really hear of Alabama as being the underdog. But it does help to some extent. But at some point in time, it wears off, and usually it's by the time you take the first snap and you get punched in the mouth, then that's all out the window.
What about you, Glenn?
Yeah, if you put it this way, you should never in an NFL locker room have to be motivated. There is never a time that if you have to be motivated as a player, you're gone. You're already out. You're on your way out. And that's true in life. Discipline wins over motivation any day. There's a million. It's like whether I don't care if it's motivational speeches or what. It's all BS. If as a professional athlete, if you're not motivated, if you're not already there and understanding your job and your drive, you're not going to be in the league long.
Right.
It's going to come from within forever and every down, and it's got to be there for you because you're going to be told you're the greatest thing there on the planet, and 6 days later, or 6 inches lower, whatever you want to pick, they're going to be kicking you in your butt.
Right.
And that whole motivation, locker room stuff, or I'm sure some kids get off on that. I'm sure some people use it or whatever, but the real trick is this has got to come from within. It's got to be who they are, and it's got to be in their DNA. It's not about motivation. It's about freaking being disciplined and going out and doing it.
Right, John?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's their show, really, but Glenn basically said it. You can take a rivalry like how we hated the Dolphins, and that would carry you, but you knew that it all boiled down personally to that individual battle against the guy you played against, no matter what team it was. And whether it was Indianapolis or Miami, as a professional, You got to show up week in and week out. You don't need somebody hyping you up and blowing snot bubbles. Like Glenn said, Pat Hill used to say to me, a pat on the back is only 12 inches from a kick in the ass.
Right.
One day they're holding you up, cheering you, and the next day they're running you out the door. So in offensive linemen, it's our personality. We're just like workaday guys.
Yep.
We cut it up in the meeting room. We make fun of everybody's bellies, and then
we make fun of everybody, John. It's the only thing we got going for us.
That's right. That's right.
You got to find a way to make yourself feel better every day.
That's right.
Exactly.
Jerry's chosen IPAs.
Exactly. So Joe conveniently skips over my questions all the time.
You just got to jump in, bro. You got to jump in.
Damn, shit is rough around here. But really, I mean, we're having you guys on for your insights, and I have my opinions, but I think people would like to hear from somebody else every now and again. The season's been weird, right? You got a couple of losses that were head scratchers, or one in that we were blown out, and in the other we should have beat the team we lost to, and then a couple other losses. Now you're struck with Trey White's down. All right, so this game has an added feel to it. The fans obviously hate the Patriots, right? You want to win the division, but given the circumstances and at this crucial point in the season, what's the locker room like? What are the interactions like? How are guys feeling? What's the atmosphere like among the players and interactions among players and coaches?
I'll let Jerry go first. Go ahead, Jerry.
I think at this time of year, you're starting to figure out where you are during the season. You're starting to figure out, am I in a position to make a playoff run? Am I in a position to where we're going to be done at Christmas and I'm going to be packing up my truck and headed home? I think it was always this time of year. It was kind of this was the cranky time of year. You started kind of getting a little bit cranky. You've been getting beat on every week. It's getting cold in Buffalo. But as you emerge through that, you start heading towards that playoff time. And that's when things, you start getting exciting. Things start getting exciting again. As far as Trey being hurt and all that, it's I don't want to use next man up, but everybody understands that they're not going to just wall somebody out there that's going to play as good as him or better than him. They know that it's going to take a group to get it done. And I'm sure they have that mentality to go out there and do it. But, you talk about the different seasons you got the preseason, regular season, playoff time. It's starting to get a little bit touchy. You're working towards that playoff push. These games are super, super important. This game tonight is as important as any game of the season. And, you're starting, it's kind of like when they strap the feed bag on the racehorse and he realizes the oats in the bag are a little bit less. He knows it's race day. And that's kind of what you're starting to feel in the locker room.
Solid.
Yeah, and Jerry, well, first off, let me say this. Bill's Mafia, what they did to Trey, awesome. That's just unbelievable. Buffalo, good people right there. But going back to what's it like in the locker room, I didn't know any better because my first 7 years were Buffalo. My first 4 years in the league were Super Bowls. I went to places where we got to the playoffs and it was different. It all stems from your head coach. If your head coach has a great attitude going in, calmness is incredibly infectious, just like panic. And a calm coach in that locker room and a calm guy who understands what's going on, you don't make this game more than it is because it is another game. What you make it is the importance of being who you are as a player and cutting out the noise, being just who you should be. Because I've been in places where the coach made it about more than that, and the team reflects it, and it's usually not good. And I've been there when a coach gets the situation and knows how to keep it under control, and that calmness can be infectious. So what's it like in that locker room? I don't know, because I don't know Sean McDermott, and I don't know what the leaders on this team are like. But I know what it's like when you have great leaders on a team, and I know what it's like when there's a lot of players all in line pulling the rope the same way. And it's pretty calm. Big games are generally pretty calm, and it's not fire up time. It's like you pretty much know I got a stick in my hand. I'm going to go wrap this guy over the head a few times with it. We're going to walk home and have a couple beers and call it a night.
I love what you said about just going out there and being yourself. And the reason that I love what you said is because to me it comes back to what we've seen this year out of the Buffalo Bills. I get asked all the time. People recognize me. I'm wearing a mask and a baseball cap, and people are like, Joe Miller, like overreaction. And I'm like, how did you even know it was like you know what I mean? Like, how did you know? Like,
they're like, you're on John Fina's show,
right? That's what they say. No.
And then the plain front ball cap.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a free agent. I always tell everybody I'm a free agent. That's why I wear these hats. But what it inevitably turns into is how are they going to look this weekend? What are they going to do this weekend when they ask me these questions? And I'm at the point this year where I'm like, I don't know which football team is going to show up, and that's where I want to go to like piggyback off of what you said, Glenn, because there's an aspect this season that offensive line particularly and the defensive line in 2 games have been out physicaled. I use the word soft. Joe Marino, who has one of probably the most popular podcast in Buffalo sports, said wilted. Every time they get punched in the mouth, they kind of wilt a little bit. Where does that? This is Bruno. Bruno, we'll get to you in a second. Where is the space between go out there and be who you are versus no, like nut up a little bit. Like don't just be who you are. Give me everything you've got, because there's times the Colts game, right? The Titans game, the Jaguars game where they weren't. So Glenn, I guess that's my question for you. Like, where's that line between be who you are and no, I need a little more out of you?
Well, that line is in their own being. That line is not something a coach can give them. The line is not. Again, it goes back to discipline always wins over motivation. Yeah. Right. It's like a person who has to be motivated. I'm sorry. I don't want that. I don't want that guy in my locker room. I don't want to have to try to figure out a way to get somebody to play well. How about the guy who just understands this is a big situation? And that's what the Bills, that's what great scouting departments do, is they go find guys that love football. And I don't care, I don't care if that they don't have the greatest social skills. I don't care that they have the best IQs. I don't care that they have the best bodies. I want guys that love the frickin' game of football. And those guys are the guys that go out every day and throw their ass on the line and win and do whatever it takes to win. And, there's been this surge in the NFL to look for a certain type. And, we got all these measurables. One thing they never measure is how much does the guy love the game? Yeah. And the only way you can do that is to look at every game film and go, what's he like when they're down 25 points? What's he like when they're winning, when they're supposed to be winning? What's he like when they're just had a big turnover against them and they got to come out on the field?
Yeah.
And that goes to that whole thing you're saying, are they soft or they get punched in the mouth or what do they do? It's like, hey, you want a guy that when he gets taken down is looking for submission, not looking how to get the hell off the ground.
That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Bruno Fina, who is currently playing football for the UCLA Tigers. Is that accurate?
It's actually not currently. He's actually on a chair with John Fina.
That would be Bruins.
Bruins. I don't watch college football, so I apologize, Bruno. Bruno, who plays for the Bruins. I'll never forget it. You're muted there, Big John. You're muted. You're muted, John.
You're muted, John. Nobody can hear you.
I wonder if I can. I'll unmute you.
All right.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Stella here also.
I haven't seen Stella since she was tiny.
Yeah, she's not tiny anymore. Welcome, Stella.
Where's Roman?
He's at basketball practice.
By the way, for myself, I just want to ask Glenn and Jerry, does John not absolutely have the best kid names ever?
No, Glenn's names are pretty good, and Jerry's are pretty damn good.
What are your guys' kids' names?
Well, Jerry's kid is Gigantor.
I've got my oldest is Jackson, and my younger one is Owen.
Well, those are good. Those are good.
He wore 00 jerseys as a kid.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it.
Nice.
What about you, Glenn?
I have a Madeline, the French spelling, and an Emily, Caroline, and my son is William, which is my grandfather, great-grandfather's, great-great-grandfather's, all the way up the line.
Very good, very good. Well, welcome to Bruno.
And Christopher as well.
Welcome.
Hey, a little trivia. I don't know if you guys know this, but Skycam was invented in Tulsa. So it's still out of Tulsa, and my buddy is running the Skycam tonight at what is it called again? I want to call
Highmark.
What's
Highmark.
Which stadium?
I don't know if you can see this or not.
I still call it
sustained wind speed right now at the stadium.
Holy cow!
48.
48.
428.
Yes.
Can we just say, look at, you know what? Hey, I got to give a shout out, though. You know, Gary, before you go any further, how about the comment section? Bruno, Stella, your sister is in the comment section right now.
Yep.
Mimi's in there.
I can't see the comment section.
I love it.
Listen, Mimi, I live on the East Coast. I don't live in California. I don't watch college sports. So please give me a little bit of just a little slack.
Hey, Joe, by the way, we have a super chat in there.
I know, I'm waiting.
Paying attention, bro.
No, I'm just waiting for a lull. I'm waiting for a moment to get it in.
No lull. We are high energy guys.
Jessica Tennis says, "Hey guys, how was playing for Ted Marchibroda? He must have been really special if he took Jim Harbaugh to the Super Bowl. So that's good. But for all intents and purposes, not all of you played for Marchibroda. I think, yeah.
I did. I love Ted. Well, I'll tell you right now, Ted Marchibroda is one of the best human beings, or was one of the best human beings I ever have been around. The guy, he was our offensive coordinator my first 2 years in the league, right before John got there, and I think he became head coach. He was the original laying out a plan. And when I say this, now I'll give a little bit of this. He'd always say again and again, and he was like, "So we're going to do this, and again we're going to, and then again we're going to do this." And then, so he would go through it. He was absolutely. When I say laid out a plan, he told us he is the guy that taught me how an offensive coordinator treats a team and how he gets them ready for a game. He would go over the offensive plan with us on Monday, and then again the night before the game. And he would go through each single play we were about to run and say, now what we're going to do is we're going to come out with this type of formation. They're either going to do this or this. And depending on what they do, we'll have these two answers. But if they come out with anything different, we'll go to this. And he did that over and over with us. So you felt like when you walk on the field, like, oh, we got it. We got this crushed. And I've been with bad offensive coordinators. I've been with great ones. I've been with good ones. And the best game plan you can ever have is the one the players believe in. And Ted Marchibroda made us believe in every game plan. We believed in it. We knew where we were going and how we were going to win a game. And we did. We kept winning games.
Hey, Jerry, how confident were you in our game plan that first year with Williams and Roddy McCart? I was like, oh, my God, the only way we can win this game is if their plane crashes.
Sleep.
That's funny. So let's do this. Let's real quick. So I'm going to start at John. We'll go to Jerry, then Glenn. What matchups in this football game are you going to be watching for? Whether it's O-line, skill positions, like what matchup are you going to be paying attention to? Where are you going to be focused, John?
I think we got to beat them. We're going to throw the ball. So we really have to win at the intermediate routes. Beasley's got to win. Diggs has got to win. Sanders. I think that's going to be huge. The ball can't come out late. We know that already. But with this wind, we have to really beat the defenders in the intermediate routes.
Gotcha. Jerry?
I'm always going to look at the fronts. I'm going to look at the fronts. I'm going to look at the front seven for the Patriots. I'm going to look at our front line, our offensive line, our tight ends. To me, this is a game where this isn't a big play game. You're not going to get big plays in 48-mile-an-hour wind. Now, if it's a big play, it's going to be somebody fumbling something, or like Glenn said earlier, the punt goes negative yardage. That'll be the big play. But you're not going to get big explosive plays in horrible weather usually. So you're going to have to control the ball, control the clock, control field position, and that's where that's done up front. So I'll be looking at that, especially with Brown coming back from the COVID and being on the COVID list, seeing how he can be. Is he going to be able to block man to man, or is he going to need help? Honestly, I've been impressed with him as a rookie, but he's got a tough test tonight. So he might need to get, the running back chip a little bit on the way out, maybe get a little bit of help, but I'll be looking at that matchup quite a bit.
Glenn?
So in the pass game, in Rich Stadium, the wind comes from the lake side into the tunnel side. So if I'm going against that wind, it's going to be intermediate passes between the hashes. It's going to be in the middle of the field. Anything outside is going to get affected by the wind. It's going to float on you. It's going to get pushed away. If I'm going towards that tunnel, I'm looking at things outside the hashes because I can put them on a dime. They're going to get there. That's number one. That's in the pass game. And in the running game, my backside of my running game, I'm going to make sure I'm going to be looking at my center, my backside guard, my backside tackle. If we can cut that defense off in there, anything going off outside, we're going to get some space inside to run. But it's game of, it's one of those games that a lot of things can happen, but that's what I'm looking at.
Jerry, or Glenn, rather, I just want you to know that that John always describes you as a technician and the smartest man he's ever known that played football. And
he's a big fat liar.
The things
But,
that
I'll second that.
the things as a lineman that you're clued into is astonishing to me just from that right there. And that was absolutely just a treasure to listen to. Bruno, I'm going to put you on the spot.
There we go.
So Bruno, you're playing college, or you're going to college at UCLA. You're on the football team. You have aspirations, and I think probably more than likely you've got the pedigree. You're going to be in the NFL one day. You have an audience right now of 3 former professional offensive linemen that played in Super Bowls. If you're looking for advice, if you've got a question for one of them, what is that question? Hey, I have this question. What is it?
You got something that you're working on in practice, something that you watched in film, the meeting right before practice, and you're going in and you have like some doubts in your mind. You're like, I don't know if I can figure this out. You're just kind of down on yourself. You've been having a tough week. What's the most common thing or the most useful thing that you can think of to just get back into the mindset of, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to fix this thing, and I'm going to put that into my arsenal as part of my game?
Jerry, you go first.
To me, practice is for mistakes. And you've got to go out there and you've got to just work on it. And it's not that's where you're supposed to make mistakes. And once you figure it out, or once you make that mistake once and you figure it out, you don't make it a second, third, or fourth time. You make it once and you're able to correct it. But you don't have pressure on you in practice. As long as your attitude and your effort's good, I mean, you're fine. That's where you're supposed to work on it. You're supposed to do those things there. So I just say, that's where you take your time, especially with you. I know you're going to a different position. You're going from tackle, I believe, to center, or guard to center. That's a technician's position. You've got to work on things. And when you're on scout team, that's the time to take those to take that stuff from film and work on it. See what works and what doesn't.
Great, thanks, Jerry.
Glenn.
Yeah, I'll echo Jerry there. That's a huge part of it. It is. It's the other thing I would always say is sometimes it's better to clear your mind, go right back to basics. I was going, you know what? How about if I just go back to what I know? Eye on the target, hands got to be right here. Just do that and let the little things work them out. Because it's unconscious aptitude, right? As a kid, we have to learn a million times how to walk. We think about every step we take. And yet by the age of 2, we never worry about walking. And before the age of 2, we're always worried how to turn the doorknob. When was the last time you thought about walking up and turning a doorknob? It hasn't happened for years. Just got to make the seemingly simple things become unconscious. So go back to basics, let it work itself out. It will.
Dad, what about you, Dad?
Man, he gets it from me all the time. But, I'm always a believer of, don't get too high, don't get too low. Pack a big damn lunch. And just keep slogging, right?
Yeah.
There's 50,000 plays between now and the end of the line, and they all can't be perfect. Learn a little bit from every one of them. Whistle while you work.
Yeah.
Be happy where you are. The opportunity that you're living it's beyond the beyond. People listening right now in the chat. I mean, you will never play in the NFL, and we did, and it's something that we cherish, right? So you get those 10,000, 50,000 reps. Just keep sticking to it. Don't give up on yourself.
Yeah. This football game is going to start in about. Oh, so we're going to say something?
Yeah. I want to go out with the last question. It's a yes or no.
Oh, no. I got a great one. So two more questions. Two more questions.
Yours.
2 more questions. Go ahead. Okay.
So yes or no, Bruno, you can chime in too. Is this game the crucible game of the season? They lose, this season falls to shit and we're out. They win and we keep ascending. Is this that game? Yes or no, Jerry?
I wouldn't say it falls completely to crap, but it's awful close.
Glenn?
I think with playing New England so close together in 3 weeks, it's a tone setter, I believe.
No, and I just and I understand exactly where Jerry's coming from, but I also understand I've been in that situation. Like, hey, we just lost to the team we're supposed to beat in order to be there, and then a few weeks later, you beat them, and you're no longer the crap storm you thought you were. It's all better, right? It's like, all right.
So we got
as well. I think it's definitely a huge momentum shifter, but one game doesn't end the season, especially this part of the season.
I'm on record as saying that if the Bills win this football game, I think they have a whole shot to the number 1 seed in the AFC, like for the entire AFC. And if they lose this football game, they're possibly out of it. Like there's
Are they sure enough to handle winning this game and then having to play them again very close?
Well, it's more about this game than the Bucs right behind it. The Bucs game, you lose this game and then you lose the Bucs game, the season's over. Like you're not making the playoffs.
I mean, never say never. For always.
Oh, Glenn. Oh, Glenn.
I was wondering. I just threw it out there.
Not say it. This is a family broadcast, Glenn. Reminds me.
We have 5 minutes left, and this is the question that everybody wants answered. Spencer Brown is 6'8", arguably one of the largest men on the football field, but he's a rookie. He's facing Matthew Judon tonight, who is arguably playing the best on a defensive line this season. He is a monster. Every single one of you were either a rookie or at least the first year you were playing professional football, and you lined up against that guy. What's in Spencer Brown's head right now, Glenn?
In his mind right now is it better be just go back to basics and know exactly what you do. Where's my target? Where are my eyes? What do I have to do? Just let's play this play.
I will use one of John Fina's famous lines. What's in his mind right now? Panic.
Don't panic, dude. Panic. You know what I thought when you said that? I honestly thought opportunity. That's what I thought. Opportunity.
Yes, exactly. I'm with John on that. He's got opportunity. Nobody believes he can do this without help. He's got a big time chance to go out there and make a big name for himself. I'm sure he's excited about it. The way he seems to be that kind of guy. He plays with a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Bruno, what do you think?
Yeah, Bruno, what do you think?
I like being an optimist, so I'm going to go with my dad here. Opportunity. It's a great word for the situation.
Opportunity to win. I like it. So let's finish this up, and then we'll get out of here with a game prediction. Bruno, what's your final score prediction for this football game?
I'd say over/under 45.
Over/under, but you're not going to give me a score though. Just over/under 45.
So 28-26.
Sure.
Wait, no, that's 54, right? What'd you say? What's the over/under?
45.
All right, Jerry, what's your score prediction?
I'm going low scoring, 17-14 Buffalo wins.
Gotcha. Glenn?
If weather holds 17-13 Buffalo, if weather clears up 24-17 Buffalo.
Nice. And then Roman's in the background.
Let's go 24-17 Buffalo.
You still can.
Doing that, Jerry. He's always stealing our thunder.
Roman, your sister's really excited about you being here.
Hey, meet me at a super chat. Roman's here. Roman's in the room.
John, you got a score prediction? Same one, 24-17?
Yeah. Even though Glenn stole it.
Gotcha. I think it's going to be lower.
No. I put qualifiers in there.
He did.
Weather changes. You never know.
Like any smart guy would, he put qualifiers in his answer. That's super good. Guys, I just want to thank you. This has been an absolute just blast. Like, this has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do it again. Maybe if heading into the playoffs, if we make the playoffs, which we should, maybe the show before we go into the playoffs, we can do this again. But this has been an absolute treat. John, any final words?
Yeah, it's just it's like a little mini reunion here with you fellas. It's one thing when Glenn and I see each other, but then you add that third person, and it just snowballs, and it's so much fun. There's a million stories that we haven't told. We only gave you about 3.5. Some of those can never be told in the public sphere. And I do.
No, we're on cable. We can just do whatever we want.
Again, never say never always.
Family show, John. And I'll have to say thanks to Glenn. I only had to throw out Crucible because Glenn came up with the outlier word of the show, which was esprit de corps. And I'm taking the pressure off me, Glenn. I knew I could rely on you.
I'm here for you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Arthur Miller, your Crucible was well designed. You threw it in there. Thank you very much.
So Joe and I always close the show where everybody says "Go Bills." So we're going to start with Roman.
No. Wait, Oh, wait,
Stop.
go ahead, Glenn, and then we got to get to the Go Bills, but go ahead, Glenn.
All these people that were commenting, thank you. That was awesome. I loved reading some of them, especially a couple of them that said how good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the comment section is super lit and super active, and Bills Mafia does it right. But I got to do my part first, John. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by Q42 on the Buffalo Rumblings vidcast network. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the host of the show with John Fina, also with our special guest Glenn Parker, Jerry Ostroski, 3/5 of the 90s Buffalo Bills offensive line. But for all of us, enjoy this football game. Stay tuned in, stay locked in. Catch me in the post-game show at midnight Eastern Standard Time tonight at the Overreaction post-game show. But for Joe, for everybody else, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. See you guys.